Okay, so this is a mini lesson on formatting direct quotations. I'm creating this as a video that you can watch on your own. And if you have any questions, certainly contact me, get a hold of me, and so you can, I can clear some things up. When you are writing your essay, I am going to ask you to quote the story. And so I know it's really confusing how to quote a story. So I have this video and I have these notes to kind of help you with that. Make sure you get a notebook out so that you can take these down. If you're somebody who receives guided notes, there is a folder in the short story unit. And if you receive guided notes, you'll be able to see this folder. Not everybody does, most people don't, okay? But you'll see a folder in the short story unit called guided notes, and then you will see formatting direct quotation guided notes. And those are the notes that you would use for this lesson. So go ahead, pause this video. And if you know you need those guided notes, grab that document, or if you don't get guided notes, but you need a notebook, go ahead and grab that. One thing overall that I have seen in, and this isn't part of the notes, but it's just a common error that I've seen. Some people use quotations from the story that are too long, okay? So some quotations are too long. If you are directly quoting somebody who's speaking, or if you're using a direct quote from a story, you should probably have just one person quoted, okay? If you have multiple characters talking back and forth in your direct quotation, that quote is too long. For the most part, you can summarize in your own words. You can say in your own words what characters are saying. We want to use short, concise quotations, okay? In your essays. I don't need you to repeat the entire story verbatim, word for word, in your essay. You're just using a quick direct quotation, a quick short direct quotation to call my attention and to kind of establish the detail that you want to establish. If you need to have the reader know about the rest of the conversation, summarize it in your own words. Okay, so don't come to me and ask me how to directly quote multiple speakers in one quotation. Just quote one character, and then you shouldn't have that problem. Another thing that people do is they try to quote a speaker and a narrator, okay? So for example, in the poem, they'll say, quote the, like, so in the poem, The Raven, he says, quote the raven. This is a quotation verbatim, nevermore, okay? And he doesn't use those double quotes, but I'm going to. Okay. I could show you how to quote within a quote. Okay, so some people do want to know, when you're putting this in your story, do you go like this and call it good? Or do you just have these quotations? Or what do you do? My recommendation, because you have a direct quotation, right? You've got the nevermore as your direct quotation, and then you have what is called, and I'm going to teach you what that means, a speaker tag. Okay, so this is a speaker. Once I can get my pen out. Quote the raven is what we're going to call a speaker tag, and I'll show you that in the notes when we go through them. Okay, I would avoid having the speaker tag and the direct quotation when you were quoting the story. So what I would do if I were writing an essay is I would say something like, when he asked this question, this question. The raven responded with nevermore. By saying, course, this is almost too short of a quotation, but that's okay. You would, obviously your quotations could be longer than one word, but this is just my quick example. So what I did here is I did not quote the raven. Okay, all I quoted was, I said, when he asked this question, the raven responded by saying, so I reworded quote the raven into my own words. And the only quote that I added was what was in the direct quotations. Then I avoided that having a quote within a quote. Again, I could show you how to do that grammatically speaking, if it's absolutely necessary. But my advice to you as a writer is that you try to avoid that. Okay, if you're trying to do quotes within quotes and multiple characters speaking in one direct quotation, you're relying too much on your story. And I want to hear more about what you have to say than what the person says, than the story says. Okay, because I've already read these stories. So anyways, that's just my aside before we start the notes. So hopefully if you've been looking for your notebook, I've kind of bought you some time, or if you're getting those guided notes and you forgot to hit pause. So formatting direct quotations, here are the general rules, okay? There are several rules when it comes to formatting dialogue in a narrative, okay? Or when it comes to formatting direct quotations that you're taking from a story. Be sure to quote the speaker exactly as he or she has said or written the words. That is an essential part of this, okay? So be sure, if you write nothing else down, be sure to quote the speaker exactly as he or she has said or written the words. Do not misspell words in your direct quotations. Authors and people really do not like that when you misquote them, because I, as a reader, am going to assume that Edgar Allan Poe really wrote those words exactly as you have written them down. And if you are misspelling words, now you're making it look like Edgar Allan Poe doesn't know how to spell. Okay, and it's not him who doesn't know how to spell, it's actually you. So especially with a direct quotation, guys, it is not that difficult to look at the page, what is being written, look back at what you're typing. Make sure it is exact, okay? People get really stuffy if you misquote them, if you say that they said something or spelled something one way and they didn't. A very basic rule, place quotation marks around the direct quotations. So I think you guys all knew that part. Quotation marks look like this, okay? So if it is a word for word statement or word for word sentence that somebody else is saying, you want to put that in quotations. So if Bob said, I like pizza, you would put Bob's words, I like pizza, in direct quotations. Provide a speaker tag, and for the most part, you will capitalize the first letter in the quotation. If the speaker tag is before the quote, place a comma after the speaker tag. If it comes after, place a comma at the end of your quote. You may now, at this part, you may be wondering, okay, what is a speaker tag? What the heck is she talking about? Okay, speaker tag is really easy, okay? A speaker tag is when you name the speaker, so who said it? And the verb, okay? So that's basically what makes up a speaker tag, okay? So your most basic speaker tags are something like this. Here's my speaker, Bob, and here's my verb, said. Okay, that's a speaker tag. You need to have, the speaker tag is written by you as the writer, so it does not go in the direct quotations. It doesn't go inside the quotation marks. So Bob said, but there's other words. So Polly yelled, there's other verbs that you can use, obviously. Shouted, cried. All of those could be verbs in a speaker tag, okay? So you shouldn't just have a direct quotations like I like pizza up here. Don't just pull the direct quotation and make it its own sentence. You want to develop that with a speaker tag. You should at the very least have a speaker tag. Bob said, here's my speaker tag, comma, and then here's the quote. I like pizza. Okay, so here's my speaker tag. And here's my quote, okay? Oftentimes people just include what's written in blue, the quotation, and they say, okay, that's a sentence. But you need to have at very least, you need to have the person who is saying it, okay? So here are examples that I provided within the notes themselves. Then Polly said, this is a speaker tag, okay? Notice that there's a comma after the speaker tag. Okay, so when the speaker tag comes first, before the direct quotation, okay, then you have a comma right there. Okay, notice that little comma? You always start off with a comma. You also capitalize the first letter in the direct quotation. He likes pizza. Okay, for the most part, I'm just going to say as a general rule, just always capitalize the first letter. There are times where you don't, but that's fairly infrequent. Okay, so what the rule I'm trying to show you here is that if the speaker tag comes first, which it does, okay, then you have a comma. Okay, and then you have your quote, which comes after. Okay, but notice this way right here, I actually have the quotation first. He likes pizza. Okay, and then my speaker tag. So my speaker tag is second, but my direct quotation is first. In this case, you have a comma after the quotation. There's your comma, okay? And then you end with your speaker tag. All right. And you generally capitalize the first letter of your speaker tag only because the speaker tag starts with a name. Polly would be capitalized anyways. Okay. But if you said Polly, this would be a lowercase s. Okay. But notice I have my direct quote, hi, comma. This is needed because my direct quote comes first. And then said Polly. So basically what I'm saying is use a comma to separate speaker tag from the quote. Okay, that's the rule basically that I'm trying to get across. All right. Let me just erase this and then I'll scroll up some more. Whoops. Whoops, I can't do that without deleting. All right. If the quote ends in a period or a comma, the period and the comma go inside the quotation marks. Okay, so what I'm saying, if your direct quote is at the end of a sentence, obviously you would probably have some sort of punctuation at the end. And if that punctuation is a period, then the period goes inside the quotes. Commas always go inside the quotations, okay? So periods go inside quotation marks, commas go inside quotation marks as well, okay? So here you say, I like pizza, that's the end of a sentence. That period gets to go inside the quotation marks before the end quote. So it's first period, then the quotation mark, okay? Here, the comma you see is going inside the quotation marks, okay? He likes pizza, comma, Polly said. All right. It would look kind of weird to an American to say, actually, let me change the color there so it stands out. Okay, this would look strange to us. Actually, I'll change it to red because it's incorrect. Okay, so that comma on the outside after, man, that's just strange to us. Don't do that. You want to take this and you want to move it inside the quotation marks. That's basically what I'm trying to get across. So with periods and commas, they go inside the direct quotations. But if we're dealing with exclamation points and question marks, then that's different, okay? And it really does depend on who owns the exclamation and who owns the question mark, okay? So if the narrator of the story, the narrator is the person who says he said, she said, the person, you know, like, so you are the narrator writing your own essay here. If it's your question, then the question mark goes outside the quotation marks, okay? Or if you're the one who's shouting as the writer or the narrator, then the exclamation mark goes outside the quotation marks, okay? But if the character, the person speaking, the person saying whatever's inside those quotes, is asking a question or shouting, then it goes on the inside. Okay, so let's look at these examples. I think it will be easier with the examples. So Peter asked Polly, would you like some fish sticks? Okay, so who is saying this direct quotation? Would you like some fish sticks? Well, Peter is, right? This direct quotation is what Peter is saying, okay? Is the question, when I say, does the question belong to him? Is he the one asking the question? Why, yes, he is. The question mark here goes before the end quotes, okay? However, in my next example, okay, the question does not belong to the speaker. It belongs to the narrator, okay? Can you believe that Polly said, I would never eat a fish stick? Okay, so this direct quotation here, I would never eat a fish stick, that is not a question. That's a statement. And it's Polly's statement. Okay, so who's asking the question? It's whoever's speaking right here, right? Can you believe that that Polly said? This is the narrator that's speaking. Okay, so the question belongs to the narrator, and therefore you see in this example, the question mark comes outside of the quotation mark. Okay, you do quotation, then question mark. Okay, same thing with exclamation points. Okay, don't touch my Pop-Tarts, Peter yelled. Okay, again, it's Peter who is doing the talking here. So these are Peter's words that I'm underlining. And the shouting, the narrator isn't shouting necessarily, the Peter is shouting. Okay, I want to show that this exclamation belongs to Peter, the one who's saying what's in the direct quotation. Okay, and the opposite example, man, Peter was really rude when he said Polly is lame for not eating fish sticks. Okay, here what I'm trying to indicate is that the narrator, okay, is the one who's doing the exclamation. So here is Polly is lame for not eating fish sticks. And that's Peter who's saying that, okay? But it isn't Peter's exclamation, okay? It's the narrator who's making a comment about Peter. Man, Peter was really rude when he said, okay? And I know, and one hint that there's not Peter's exclamation is because said. You don't usually use an exclamation point if you're saying things, right? So this is the narrator's exclamation. So my narrator is saying, man is really rude when Peter said, everything that falls in between those carrots there. And therefore the exclamation belongs to the narrator. Okay, so just as a quick recap, inside or outside for quotation marks. Okay, if it's a period, it goes inside. If it's a comma, it always goes inside the quotation marks. Okay, exclamation. Well, that's whose exclamation. It depends on whose exclamation. Okay, and same with question mark. Whose question? It depends on who's asking the question. Is it the narrator or is it the person in the dialogue, person in the direct quote? Okay, so, and the examples are over here for that. Okay, some other recap review that you want to remember for direct quotations is a speaker tag. Includes speaker and the verb. Okay, and then I'll just quickly switch colors so that these all blend together. And then comma always separates the speaker tag and the direct quotation. And then with the direct quotation itself, okay, I'll do that in black here, just another color. Direct quotations should be word for word. Okay, so even spelling, punctuation should be the same as it was written in the story or the text or wherever you're quoting from, okay? Another thing to note with direct quotations is start the first letter of the quote as a capital. Wait. Okay, so my example here then, we'll say, Polly, I don't know, I always use Polly and Peter. Polly said, just because it's a basic. Or, you know, I can give you an example of something other than said. How about stated? And then remember, I have a comma between my speaker tags and my direct quotation. And since my speaker tag comes first, goes after the speaker tag, right? And then in my quote, it has to be word for word. All right, so I'm keeping that in mind. Whatever Polly stated or whatever I'm saying here has to be what she actually said. Okay. And then it also should start with a capital letter. Okay. Please move your chair. Okay. Now remember, if the periods and commas always go inside the quotation marks. So I'm going to put my period and I'm going to put direct quotations. All right. But again, there's other ways of doing this. Okay. I could say Polly shouted or yelled. Okay. Again, still need a comma. Okay. This is Polly's exclamation, so it goes in the middle. Okay. Same thing as if Polly asked, "Did you come to dinner?" Question mark on the inside, just like you see that there. Okay. But if the exclamation or the question belongs to the narrator, okay. That doesn't look like a capital enough letter to me. Polly uppercase. Okay, comma to separate my speaker tag. Okay. Now, this question does not belong to Polly. It actually belongs to the narrator. Okay, so it goes on the outside. All right, that's just a quick recap in case you didn't understand. So those are the notes on direct quotations. Hopefully you understand how to punctuate them and integrate them better.